The Kris brothers are at it again, squabbling like a pack of Salt and Shake and roast beef monster munch.
But whose side are you on? Are you on Golden Wonder or are you on Walkers? We don't know. Chris Sutton versus Chris Boyd. Better than anything we've seen today in the world of Scottish football. After watching 3 shite games, it all comes down to, once again, these 2 controversial figures. The talking is not happening on the pitch. It's happening in the studio between Chris Sutton and Chris Boyd. 2 guys that will never get along. 2 guys that will never be happy under the same roof. I'm beginning to think there's only room for one Chris. And I want to know which Chris is it going to be?
What Chris is it going to be? But let's dive into Chris Sutton's first initial opinion here. He said, why would you want to go and spend a fortune in January to win the league again?
So he's referring to a lot of Celtic fans and Brendan Rodgers who have basically come out and said they've got this war chest and they need to spend it. A lot of Celtic fans don't believe there's enough quality in the Celtic squad right now, and I would 100% agree with him. I think the recruitment has been very poor. And not just this season. I actually think in the previous transfer window when Ange was at the club, I think the January transfer window, it was a pretty poor recruitment as well. And I know they brought in Alistair Johnstone. He looked a great player under Ange. Let's be real though, he doesn't look the same £20 million plus player under Brendan Rodgers. Plus some of the other signings that they brought in. They brought in Kobayashi, I believe. They brought in Iwata. I think they brought in O in January. These players just haven't really done it for me. So I would say in the last 2 transfer windows, I think Celtics, I don't think their business has been good enough, okay? I don't think the incoming players have done their job, and they've let some good players go, most notably Jota, Giamakis, and Juranovic. So I think Celtic have lost quality, and they haven't really replaced it to the same extent. And I think they do need to spend money. Now, we all know Chris Sutton, this is a dig at Rangers. He is basically insinuating that Celtic don't need to spend money because they're going to win the league anyway. They don't need to spend their money. They don't need to spend big. They don't need to spend a fortune because they're the best team in Scotland and they're going to win the Scottish Premiership either way. That might be the case. Maybe Celtic don't need to spend a lot of money, but we've seen in Europe that they're simply not good enough. And if they want to have any ambition other than just being better than Rangers, then they're going to have to spend money. So we know Chris Sutton is obsessed with Rangers and all he really cares about is Celtic beating Rangers. But if you want to look at the bigger picture, if you want Celtic to get better overall, if you want Celtic to start getting better results and progressing further in Europe, then you're going to have to spend money because what they've got right now just isn't good enough.
It ain't good enough, right? And I think you've got to look at it from another point of view. If you're going to strengthen your team for Europe next season, you'd be as well starting the earliest you can. Why would you not buy anyone in January and wait to the summer for Europe?
Yeah, why not try and get a couple of top quality players in January, get them embedded into the team, and then hopefully you can hit next season running. It wouldn't make any sense, in my opinion, to wait until the summer, then try and bring in the big players, and then they come in and you don't even know if they're going to be good, you don't know if they're going to be poor. At least if you bring in some players in January and they're fucking duds, maybe you could even attempt to get rid of them in the summer.
Yep, and I think you've got to look at the other point of view. It's not like Celtic are perfect this season. They're undefeated in the league, but they are at the Cup. Their Scottish Cup hasn't begun either. And Rangers, I would guarantee Rangers will be better after January. They cannot get worse. Rangers are going to have to rebuild to a degree.
Celtic might be unbeaten in the league, but they've not been impressive. They've really not been impressive. You know, a lot of the wins they've kind of just crawled over the line. So I think Sutton's just trolling here. I think he just wants a reaction. I think he knows deep down Celtic need to spend money and that they need to get better with their recruitment.
I think the problem is, I think Brendan Rodgers was promised to spend money and they haven't. And Chris Boyd does say that Rodgers is saying the squad isn't good enough. Rodgers did say after the match that half-time in the game today was the angriest they'd ever been. And you know what? I think he'd be within reason. Because
I'm surprised he didn't make more than one change.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised too. And what the problem is, see Joe Hart, he's going to cost them points. See if Rangers were actually up to speed and doing things, Celtic would not be having things easy. And if they do not strengthen Joe Hart in January, they're going to drop more points for him.
Yeah, the thing is, though, Joe Hart, he'll cost you points in the league, but Celtic can make those points up. Over 38 games, you can make Joe Hart mistakes up, right? In the Champions League, when you're only playing 6 games, if he's costing you a couple of results out of 6 games, you can't make that up.
No, you can't. You simply can't. And
maybe you can if you're a Bayern Munich or a Real Madrid and you're a top team. But if you're Celtic and every goal counts, then you cannot be having keepers making those sort of mistakes. You cannot be having strikers missing gilt-edged chances. So I think Celtic do need to improve, and I just don't think Kris Sutton wants to admit it.
I think what Celtic need is a goalkeeper, a right winger, and probably a left back, because Burnaby is just completely out of the fold now. I think if Celtic go through January without bringing anyone in, would be it's not a disaster for them, because they'll still be top, I think, by January. But let's be real, Rangers win their game in hand. It's 5 points, and if
still be top, of course they'll still be top.
Aye, well, what's a long month ahead?
Rangers won't be top by January.
They might be.
They won't be.
You never know.
And you do know.
The Philip Clement train is rolling in. Yeah, of course they won't be. But my point is, if Celtic do not improve, and say Rangers get rid of Dessers and Lammers in January, big if, because I don't see it happening. Who the fuck would want them, right? And they keep Joe Hart, and Rangers massively improve, and Clement brings a few of his signings in. What's to say that Rangers can't overtake them by the end of the season if Celtic stand still? We've seen it in that season when Ange first came in. Rangers stood still, Celtic moved on, made all those impressive signings in January, and did they not overtake them? Yes or no?
Yeah, but hold on, why are you telling me as if I didn't know? I said after 2 games Celtic would win the league that year.
I say I didn't know. I'm painting a picture here like Picasso.
I'm just letting you know, I knew after 2 games Celtic would win the league that year.
Nah, you flipped that one, didn't you?
I don't see Rangers win the league this year. Could see them making a fight of it. I think they'll come up short.
Come up short, guys, but these two are always going to clash. You know what? Sky knew what they were doing. Kris Sutton was in the wastelands, the wilderness over in TNT Sports. You know, as much as I don't like Sutton, it's a good move to have him in Scottish football, isn't it? These two button heads. I don't like the fact that, it's more of a 2-on-1 deal with McFadden in the middle.
Yeah, McFadden's not really neutral, is he?
No, he's definitely got the green tinted specs on. But we'll be back very soon, guys, with more content, and that's where we're going to leave this video. So until next time, peace. What? What's up with you?
I was fucking lied to you. You said you had a lot